Hey everybody, today is August 25th, so that means it is day 25 of VEDA, and I'm totally doing this VEDA from my bathroom. It's already past dark, so I usually sit in front of a window whenever I do my videos, and I don't have any light, so it's always really hard to find light whenever I get home from work late. So the natural lighting in my house, I guess, just isn't really great for an eye touch. I guess if I had a super cool video camera, that'd be much better. But today I'm going to do just kind of a quick little video. I wanted to say thank you to everybody who comments on my videos and everything. I know the last couple days I've not responded to any of them. I've just been so busy, so I didn't want anybody to think that I was just being rude or anything like that. So I am off tomorrow and I'm going to try to respond and comment back to people because some of you have left some really nice and sweet comments, and so I just wanted to say thank you for that. And then I also wanted to say that I got my idea from Tink. She said something about talking about your childhood, or, you know, what was childhood stuff. So I thought, oh, okay. I don't have like your average childhood story, so I guess I'll share it. So basically, I was born and I had an older brother. My brother is probably a year and a half older than me. And so anyways, so my parents were very, very young when they had my brother and I. My mom was 15 when she had me, and I guess she had just like turned 17. Oh no, I'm sorry. My mom was 15 when she had my brother. And then I guess like a year and a half, 2 years later, when she was right at 17, she had me. So my parents got married. They were very young, living together. And then my parents got into drugs really badly. So at that point, my parents were not taking care of us correctly. They were leaving us at random people's houses. We were sleeping in cars with them. They didn't have anywhere to live. We were sleeping in motels. Not that that's a horrible thing, but we were, you know, we were bouncing from place to place to place and not necessarily eating right. And so, you know, it was just bad conditions for a child. A child should not have to live like that. So that happened. And then my mom and my dad, you know, obviously my grandparents find out about the drug usage and all of this. And so there's a lot of trouble and tension and things like that going on in the family. And then, so my mom and my dad are living with my grandmother, which my grandmother that I talk about is my dad's mom. And so we move in with them. And then I guess at some point my mom is going to move out, and we're young. Like, I'm probably 2 and my brother's 5, about. And so my mom and my grandmother did not get along at all. There was always just huge amounts of tension between them. And so my brother was in the other room, like, getting into stuff, and my grandmother kept yelling at my mom, "You need to get him out of here, you need to get him out of here." And so my mom is, like, packing her stuff, and she's either coming down from drugs or is on drugs, who knows. But anyway, she goes into the other room, and she gets my brother, and she picks him up to set him down, like, on the chair or something like that. And he kind of sticks his legs out. So when she sets him down very aggressively, she winds up breaking both of my brother's legs. So she broke my brother's legs, and then immediately we were removed from the home because of, you know, CPS, Child Protective Services, got involved. And so that happened. We wind up going into foster care. And then a little while later, my grandmother and my grandpa on my dad's side get us back. And they have temporary legal guardianship over us, like temporary custody. And so I guess my parents, like, go through these classes and all this stuff to try to get us back and try to get their lives back together. And, you know, there's CPS is involved during this time. So they don't really get their shit together, and my grandmother becomes, like, legal guardian over us. Like, we haven't been adopted, papers have not signed or anything like that, but it is understood that my grandmother is the guardian of us. And so, like, we don't really get to see our parents, like, at all. We do get to see our dad a little bit more just because he comes by the house, and he's my grandma's son, so, you know, it's kind of understood that he would have a little more visitation over us. So my parents continue to do drugs and be stupid, and I'm trying to think of the time frames that things happened. So anyways, so I guess at this one point in time, my grandmother let my parents have visitation of us, like, on their own, even though she wasn't really allowed to. And so my parents don't bring us back for like a week. And so when that happens, like my grandmother cuts off all visitation. We can't see them at all. And so that happens. And I can remember, I mean, I only remember a handful of times when I was a young child of ever seeing my mother. I have a couple memories, real good memories of her at that time. And so I guess I'm about 8 or 9 at this point. No, okay, so I'm like 7. And my brother and I start going to visit with this family, this woman and this man. And they're really nice. They are a little bit, obviously, more well off than we were, considering we were living in a trailer park. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but my grandmother was living on Social Security, and my grandpa was dying of cancer. He had cancer at that time, lymphoma. And so we start visiting more and more with Chris and Pat, this couple. And, you know, I have very strong memories of them, too, being at their house and, you know, just always being with them. And it was really weird for a long time because when I was a kid, I didn't know that was why. But anyways, they were going to adopt us. And I guess my grandfather started to get a lot more sick, and they realized that it was probably going to be terminal, that he was not going to make it through. And so I guess my grandmother, thinking and feeling that she's going to be alone, decides that she wants to adopt us. So we stopped seeing Chris and Pat, and then my grandpa and my grandma adopt us in December of 1991, like December 18th. I remember because that was the day we got adopted. When we got home from the court and all of that stuff that day, my grandparents had bought us a Nintendo. Nintendo had first come out or something like that, so we got a Nintendo. But, so yeah, we got adopted, and I mean, years went by before I ever saw my mom. No, I'm sorry. The next year, my grandpa dies in that July, and I can just remember going to the funeral, and my mom was there at the funeral, and I was so angry at her. And I don't know if it was just everything that my grandma would say about her, but I remember looking back on it and just, I wouldn't even look at her, my mom. And now that I look at it, I'm sad that that's how I felt, and I'm sure she felt like she wanted to reach out to me. But anyways, so I saw my mom at that time, and at the very same time, it was very strange. My brother was born with this odd condition. Sorry, this video is going to be just a tiny bit long. My brother was born with this really weird birth defect. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's his sternum, like the bone right here. Instead of broadening out as he got older, it was sinking in. So he had like this giant, not like hole in his chest, not like a hole that you could look through, but this like cavity where his chest sank in, like you could put your fist in it. And so my brother had to have surgery. And they like cut him from one side of the chest all the way to the other, and they put a bar in his chest, and he had that in for like a year, and then he was fine. But anyways, what I was saying, sorry, I'm getting totally distracted. The day that my grandfather died is the very same day that my brother had surgery. And I remember that my family, we went in there and we told my grandpa at like 3 o'clock in the morning, because we had hospice care. We told him at like 3 o'clock in the morning, or maybe 4, that because my grandpa knew he was going to have the surgery, and it was a major surgery. So we went in there and told him that CJ had the surgery, and then he made it out and he was fine. And like 30 minutes later, my grandpa passed away. So he was just waiting to know. And even though we lied to him, you know, he needed to go. He was ready. And so he passed away. And then my brother, I think I stayed, actually at this point in time, Chris and Pat, the people that were going to adopt us, are kind of still in our life a little bit, because I remember going and staying with them for a little bit, because my grandmother had to then deal with my brother's surgery that morning, and it was major. And then my brother didn't even find out that our grandpa had passed away until like 2 weeks later after the surgery, because it could have been extremely traumatizing to him. And they told us at the time that a stress like that, a young child going under such a major surgery, you know, he might not wake up. So yeah. So after that, my grandmother raised my brother and I alone, and then it was very sad, very stressful. She was a very sad woman. She had just lost her husband. All of her children, all 5 of them, were drug addicts, and just like my parents were. And so no one really kind of cared about her, and so she kind of took a lot of things out on my brother and I. We had a very rough upbringing, although there was lots of love and support, and we always had food. You know, she didn't have a lot of money, but she did take care of us. But emotionally, it was very turbulent, although I loved my grandmother so much, and so much now. So anyway, we get older. I don't see my mom. I see my dad occasionally. He's just a drug addict and doesn't keep a job or anything like that, so he comes to our house time to time. And my mom, my grandma, I call my, another thing, I call my grandmother my mom. She, when we were young, another weird thing, she made us call her mom. We used to call her nanny. She was our nanny. And then after she adopted us and after the death of my grandpa, she turned into this crazy woman and we had to call her mom. So I started calling her mom. And then, you know, like all through my upbringing, my grandmother kind of talked down about my mom, never really had positive things to say, and I never got to see or talk to my mom, so, or anybody in that, on that side of my family. And so I'm losing my train of thought. So anyways, my grandma raises us, and you know, I go through school. I do well in school. I go to high school. I don't really get to participate in high school stuff like activities. I did my freshman year and a little bit my junior year. I did some theater and choir, but towards the end of school, my grandma just was having such a hard time that I felt obligated to get a job after high school and help pay bills and things like that. So that's what I did. And so yeah, my brother left home when he was like 17, and it was just my grandmother and I. And then whenever I was about 17, 16, I started to see my mom, like kind of in secret. My grandmother just never, she's fine with my mom now. They have a fine relationship. It's just, I wish it could have been different whenever I was a kid. It would have been a lot easier on me growing up, because when I was young, I mean, it was difficult. I went through counseling. I was very shy as a kid. I was such a sensitive little person. But I was very wise at a very young age. I mean, I feel like I matured at a very young age. And anyways, everything that happened to me in my life, I'm so grateful for now as an adult, because I feel like I am such a strong person. I'm a responsible person. I don't like to treat other people like shit, because I saw my family just treat each other like shit all of their lives. And I learned from that. I watched that happen. And so I'm just thankful that I did have the life that I had, even though it was hard. Everybody has a hard life, and no matter how you look at it, growing up for everybody is extremely difficult. And you know, my story sounds crazy to some people, and there's some people out there that are like, oh girl, you just don't even know what I went through. Because like the thing is at the time of going through it, it was the worst thing in the entire world. Now that I'm older, I realize, you know, there's things some kids have gone through that's much worse. I mean, myself, my brother, and all of my cousins all wound up in foster care at some point in time. Some of them not even ever living with a family member once they got into foster care. You know, so we all had a hard upbringing, and it was difficult. And I guess the only thing I could say is that, like I said, I'm grateful for everything, because I feel like I'm an awesome person today, and I really wouldn't be that without the things that I, you know, had experienced. But I just want to say also to people out there who do have children, no matter how much you think that your kids are too young to understand what's going on, you couldn't be more wrong. From a very young age, I had emotional trauma from everything that we went through as kids. And even, you know, I mean, that carried with me through high school as a teenager. When I was a young kid, I used to, and I'm not proud to say this, but when I was a young kid, I used to tell people that my parents were dead, because that's how I felt inside. I mean, when my parents, I guess before my grandpa died, you know, they signed the rights over and everything. And after that, I felt such a hole in my body. And then my parents went off and had kids with other people and had lives with them. And I felt so just like thrown to the side. I felt like no one loved me. Even though I had my grandma, I just felt like, wow, my own parents don't care about me. And so if you have kids out there, really appreciate the innocence that they have, and how, you know, you have the ability to mold those little minds. And whatever's going on in your family life, or if you have a split family and one parent is away and they don't get to see them, all I can say is have the utmost respect for them as much as you can, because your kids feed off of the things that you say to them, and you can really fuck them up without knowing it, you know. So I'm not saying people are bad. I'm not trying to tell anybody how to live their lives. I'm just saying that young people, they absorb a lot, and it will affect them regardless. So anyways, that is my childhood. I'm sorry this video is long. I'm so sorry. But if anybody else wants to talk about their childhood, I would love to hear stories. even though my childhood was a bit different and crazy, and I still had happy moments, I still had happy times, and there was love and lots of things like that. So, you know, it balances out in the end. So anyways, happy VEDA 25, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye.